The skies above Reach were always calm. But today, they burned. Smoke rose from the far hills where the colony's border towers had once stood. Queen Leah Morgan stood at the edge of the balcony, her dark eyes locked on the horizon. Her white coat fluttered in the wind, stained with dust. She didn't blink. Behind her, people rushed through the marble halls of the high citadel, carrying supplies, messages, and fear. The syndicate fleet had arrived in the outer ring. It was only a matter of time before they struck. Leah didn't show fear, not in front of her people. But deep inside, something cold pressed against her heart. She knew what the syndicate did to peaceful colonies. They took everything: power, resources, technology, and left silence behind. Inside the citadel, in a chamber hidden below the main court, a young engineer named Eli Grant worked in silence. He wasn't a soldier. He didn't even carry a weapon. His job was simple: keep the old systems alive, keep the power running. But today, he had found something strange in the deepest layer of the power core. It looked like a box, but it hummed with life. ILT symbols lit up on its surface when he touched it. He wiped the sweat from his forehead, confused but curious. The box was older than anything else in the colony. It was from Earth, real Earth, the one that was swallowed by a storm 500 years ago. No one alive had seen Earth. It was gone. But this invention remained. When Eli placed his hand on the box, a voice spoke, not loud, but clear and human. Who remembers? He jumped back. His tools fell to the ground. He stared at the box. It spoke again. Who remembers Earth? Eli didn't know what to say. Voice cracked as he whispered, I do. The box glowed brighter. Lines of light crawled across the walls, lighting up symbols he couldn't read. He ran to the upper floors. He had to tell someone. He had to tell the Queen. Queen Leah listened carefully as Eli told her what happened. She didn't laugh. She didn't doubt. She just nodded. Then she asked to see it. When she entered the chamber and stood before the invention, she felt something stir inside her. The voice returned. You are not forgotten. The Queen touched the box, and for the first time in years, she felt hope. That night, she called her closest people Clara Brooks, a sharp and skilled mechanic, with oil-stained hands and a fearless heart. A former soldier who had left war behind. And Naomi Lane, the colony's young strategist, with a gift for reading movements like poetry. They all sat together in a quiet room, listening to the voice of the Earth-made machine. It was not just a voice, it was a guide, a mind, a memory. It spoke of inventions lost to time, of ways to fight without violence, of ships that flew like birds and shields that moved like water. It told them the truth. Earth had not been destroyed by nature. It had been destroyed by fear. Fear of invention. Fear of minds that could not be controlled. Queen Leah stood, her voice calm but strong. They want to take everything from us. But this time, we have something they cannot understand. Something they thought they destroyed. Eli looked up at her. What do we do? She looked at each of them. We prepare. We use this gift. And when the syndicate comes, we won't run. We will survive. We will create. The stars outside were dark. But in the heart of Reach, light had returned. The cold air inside the old tunnels made Eli's hands shake, but he kept working. The invention was awake now, pulsed with soft blue light, like a heart that had waited too long. He sat cross-legged on the metal floor, wires spread around him. His tools clicked and hummed as he connected the ancient box to Rich's systems. Clara Brooks stood beside him, watching closely. Her eyes were sharp, always looking for mistakes. She didn't trust machines that talked. She had seen machines kill. But she trusted Eli. She had grown up in the lower city, building things from broken scrap, and she knew when someone's hands were steady. Are you sure it's safe? She asked. Eli didn't look up. It's not trying to hurt us. It's trying to help. The voice came again, quiet but clear. You're a builders, you remember. Clara frowned. Why does it talk like that? Eli wiped his hands and looked at her.
What?
It doesn't know who we are. It thinks we forgot where we came from. Earth built it to protect us. Now it wants to know if we're worth saving. High above them, Queen Leah stood at the edge of the citadel, watching the stars. The syndicate's ships were getting closer. Reports said they were only 3 days away. She closed her eyes and listened to the wind. The people didn't know yet. She would not tell them until the last moment. She wanted them to have peace, even if just for a little longer. Naomi Lane came up the stairs behind her. She walked with soft steps, but her face was hard. "They've stopped at the moons," Naomi said. "They're waiting, watching." "They want us to panic," Leah replied. Naomi nodded. "And if we don't, they'll come anyway." In the lower levels, John Mercer walked through the barracks, checking the training drills. He was tall and quiet, with eyes like gray steel. He'd been a soldier once, a long time ago. Now he trained others not to fight with anger, but with focus. He stopped beside a boy no older than 16, struggling with a pulse rifle. John knelt beside him. "What's your name?" Drew, the boy said, shaking. John took the rifle and showed him how to hold it. "This isn't about killing, it's about surviving. If you panic, you lose. If you breathe, you live." The boy nodded. John stood and looked toward the tunnel where the invention was being tested. He didn't like machines with minds, but he trusted Queen Leah. If she believed this thing could help, then he would protect it with his life. Back in the control room, lights flashed across the wall as the invention connected to the old systems. Screens lit up with maps, numbers, and energy flows. It moved faster than any human hand. Eli stepped back and watched in awe. "What is it doing?" Clara asked. "It's upgrading us," Eli said. "It's rewriting everything." Power surged through the colony. The lights in the outer towers grew brighter. The shields buzzed louder. Small drones began to move through the air, guided by invisible commands. Queen Leah arrived with Naomi. They stood in silence, watching the inventions work. Then the voice returned. "They are near. I can shield you. I can guide you. But you must trust each other. You must not break." Leah stepped forward. "We will not break." The invention glowed bright. A soft hum filled the room. Eli turned to Leah. "It's ready." She looked at him, then at her people. "And we are too." In the skies above Havenreach, the Syndicate ships turned toward the colony. Their weapons were armed. Their path was clear. But Havenreach was no longer weak. It had remembered Earth, and Earth had answered. The first strike came at dawn. The sky turned white as light burst across the clouds. The Syndicate had fired without warning. One of Havenreach's outer towers shattered and fell into the sea. Sirens rang through the colony. People screamed and ran. But deep inside the citadel, the invention was calm. Queen Leah stood in the main control room. Her face showed no fear. Naomi Lane worked at her side, giving commands to defense crews across the colony. Clara Brooks was in the lower decks, restarting systems with sparks flying around her. Eli stood near the invention, hands moving fast as the machine sent wave after wave of data to every part of Havenreach. "They are scanning us," the invention said. "Yeah, they want to break your walls, but they do not know your strength." Leah looked at Eli. "How long can we hold?" Eli answered without looking up. "We don't hold, we move." The invention had changed everything. It had turned Havenreach into a living machine. Walls moved, roads shifted. Shields bent like glass. Every building now had a mind. They could not be taken the old way. Outside the colony, the Syndicate warships closed in. Commander Royce Hale stood at the bridge of the lead ship. He watched the screen in silence. He had taken many colonies. None had moved like this one. Their buildings shifted away from his scans. Their defenses came online before he fired. He felt something strange. Not fear, not anger. Something deeper. "This place is not normal," he said. "Send ground teams. I want the core." Back inside Havenreach, John Mercer led a squad through the forest level. Trees grew along the upper platforms, thick and green. The air smelled of life. But today, they waited for death. John raised his hand and the soldiers took position. Then he heard the sound. A dropship. Fast and close. He spoke into his mic. "They're coming in from the north." Naomi's voice answered. "Hold your ground. You are not alone." The dropships hit the soil. Syndicate soldiers rushed out, weapons drawn. But they didn't find a weak colony. They found streets that trapped their feet. Walls that moved to block their path. Light beams that blinded their eyes. And John's team, ready and strong. John fired. His people moved with skill and speed. They did not fight for glory. They fought to protect what was left. The Syndicate soldiers tried to push forward, but they were lost in a maze they could not control. In the command room, Leah watched the battle unfold. Her hands rested on the edge of the table. She turned to Eli. "Can the Invention talk to them?" Eli hesitated. "Yes, but they may not listen." Eli sent the signal. Across the Syndicate fleet, every screen flashed. A voice came through. Calm, clear. "You were once like them. You were born of Earth. You forgot. But they remembered. You cannot crush memory." Commander Royce stared at the screen. His officers shouted, confused and angry. But he said nothing. He stared at the face on the screen. Queen Leah, standing proud, not begging, not afraid. He turned to his second. "Pull back the ground teams. Sir, they will not fall today." Back on the ground, John watched the enemy retreat. He breathed slow. Then he looked up and saw something that made his chest tighten. The people of Havenrich were standing on rooftops, watching, cheering. They had not run. They had stayed. In the lower decks, Clara sat on the floor, oil on her hands and face. She smiled for the first time in days. Beside her, a small light blinked on the Invention. Eli looked at it and nodded. "We survived." Queen Leah looked at the stars and whispered, "Now we begin." The fires were gone, but the air still carried the smell of smoke. Havenreach had survived the attack, but everyone knew it was not the end. It was only the beginning. The Syndicate had seen the Invention. They would come back, stronger and angrier. Queen Leah knew this, but she stood in front of her people and spoke with a steady voice. "We will not wait for them to strike again. We will move, we'll build, and we will make sure no one else suffers like we did." Across the colony, workers began packing supplies. Ships were prepared. Engines roared through the night. Families helped one another. Children carried water. Elders gave maps. Everyone had a job. The Invention worked faster than before, sending blueprints and systems to every screen in the colony. Eli Grant stood at its side, reading the data and guiding teams across the platforms. "It wants us to build more than defense," he said to Clara, who stood with a wrench in hand. "It wants us to create life, floating cities, new homes." Clara raised an eyebrow. "In space?" "In space, in the sky, anywhere people can live free." Clara looked at the Invention. Her voice dropped. "Then we better not waste time." Far away, on a Syndicate outpost, Commander Royce Hale stared at a report. His orders were clear. He had to destroy Havenreach. But something inside him had changed. He had watched Queen Leah speak. He had seen the people fight without hate. And he had heard the Invention. It was not a weapon. It was a voice from Earth. A part of history no one wanted to admit was real. He stood from his chair and left the room. He took a small shuttle and left without telling anyone. He had made his choice. Back in Havenreach, Queen Leah walked through the garden level, where green vines grew along glass walls. Naomi Lane walked beside her. "We are ready to move," Naomi said. "The main city ship is almost complete." Leah stopped and touched a flower. "Will they follow us? Some will. Others are still afraid." Leah looked up, and we lead the way. That night, the first city ship rose from the platform. Its shape was smooth and wide like the wings of a bird. Lights ran along its side. It was not a warship. It was a home. Inside, families gathered. Engineers set up systems. Children played in wide halls filled with soft light. The Invention had named it Hope One. Eli stood in the control room. His fingers moved over the panel. The ship responded with gentle hums. Clara joined him, wiping grease from her hands. "We did it," she said. "No," Eli said. "This is only the start." The next morning, a strange signal came from space. A small ship approached. At first, weapons locked on it. But then the ship opened, and Commander Royce stepped out alone. He walked across the platform, unarmed. Naomi and John met him at the gate. "You shouldn't be here," John said. "I know," Royce answered. "But I saw what you built, and I want to help." John stared at him. Naomi studied his eyes. Then she gave a small nod. Later, Royce stood before Queen Leah. "Why did you change your path?" she asked. "I remembered something," he said. "My mother used to tell stories about Earth. I thought they were lies. Now I know they were warnings and dreams." Leah watched him for a long moment, then turned to Eli. "Teach him," she said. "Let him learn." Royce bowed his head. "Thank you." The city ships began to rise one by one. Hope 2, Hope 3, each one carried a part of Havenreach, a part of Earth's forgotten strength. They were not running. They were building a future. And this time, they would not be silenced. The city ships flew through space like stars that had learned to move. Hope 1 led the way. Behind it came Hope 2, Hope 3, and many more. Each one held people who once lived in fear. Now, they were builders, dreamers, and protectors. They had not run from the syndicate, they had risen above it. Inside Hope 1, Queen Leah sat in the central chamber. She watched the stars pass by through the wide window. Her people were safe for now, but peace was not simple. It had to be guarded. She placed her hand on the smooth metal table where the invention rested. Its light pulsed softly, waiting. Eli stood beside her. His face was tired, but his eyes were full of purpose. "We found a signal," he said. "It came from a forgotten system. They're calling for help." Leah looked at him. "Are they like us? They don't know who they are yet," he said. "They live in fear. The syndicate rules them." She nodded. "Then we go." The fleet changed course. Engines lit up and turned toward the dark corner of the stars. Naomi Lane gave orders to the other ships. Clara checked the engines, shouting commands to her crew. John prepared the guards, not for war but for rescue. Commander Royce stood beside him. He no longer wore the uniform of the syndicate. He now wore the mark of Havenreach. And as the fleet neared the lost system, they saw the truth. It was worse than they expected. The colony below was broken. Fires burned across the cities. The people were starving. Syndicate towers stood tall in every city, watching with cold eyes. Leah called her leaders to the table. "We will not strike them with fear," she said. "We'll show them another way." Eli raised a question. "What if they don't believe us?" "Then we show them," Leah said. "Not with words. With action." The city ships lowered through the clouds. The sky above the colony changed. People looked up in silence. They had never seen ships that moved like wings. They had never seen lights so soft. From the ships came food, water, and tools. No weapons, no demands. Just help. Clara led a team to fix the broken power lines. She worked with her hands, side by side with the local workers. Eli and the Invention repaired the water systems. Naomi spoke to small groups, telling the story of Havenreach. John trained young people to defend, not to destroy. And Royce met with the old leaders of the colony, not to threaten, but to listen. At first the people were afraid. Then they were confused. Then slowly they joined. One morning, a small boy gave Queen Leah a flower made of scrap metal. His hands were dirty, his face thin, but he smiled. She took it and placed it on the table beside the Invention. "Do you know what this means?" she asked him. "It means we can build again," the boy said. Tears filled her eyes. She looked at the leaders around her. "We will leave the Invention here," she said. "They need it more than we do," Eli nodded. "There are more out there, more pieces of Earth. We'll find them." The fleet rose once more. But the colony below was not the same. It had changed. It had remembered. Years passed, more systems joined. More city ships were built. The stars were no longer cold. They were paths. Earth was not a place anymore. It was a way of life. A voice inside each person who chose to create instead of destroy. Queen Leah stood one last time before her people and spoke the words they would never forget. "There was no hope in the stars, till we made it with our own hands."